everybody, it's Boo Ray Perry from Tampa, Florida, and today we're going to talk about the first 10 things that I do whenever I unpack a new camera. Now, I can't walk you through exactly how to do these 10 things because all cameras are different, and so you're going to have to spend a little time in your manual, a little time getting used to how your camera works so that you can set these settings. But I've owned a lot of cameras. I'm always, looking at new cameras, buying new cameras, and I've just kind of developed a routine that when I get a new camera, take it out of the box or buy a used camera, these are the first things that I do right away to get the camera ready for me to use it and to feel comfortable with the camera as I move forward. So let's start at the very top with the simplest thing to do, and the thing that's obviously the first thing you do if you buy a new camera, and that is set the date and the time on the camera. The only reason I include this on the list is because if you bought a used camera, then maybe you don't know that you should check this. If you buy a new camera, what's going to happen is when you turn the camera on for the first time, it's going to walk you through the system so you can set the date and the time. But if you buy a used camera, that won't be the case. You need to go in right away, find your settings, set your date and your time, set your time zone, and sometimes they even have daylight savings time settings and things like that. Just go in there, check out your date and your time settings, and get them correct. Also, if you have more than one camera that you use, sync those two cameras to each other so that way they're on the exact same second. So that if you work with both cameras, they will have the same, you'll get an accurate time frame and time log for all of your images. So that's number one, pretty obvious. Number two is to set your image quality. Now, most cameras are going to give you two options. Well, they're going to give you more than two. The two big options are going to be RAW versus JPEG. And I can tell you straight off the bat that if you don't know what RAW is, then you just set JPEG. And don't worry about RAW for now. You're going to get into RAW later, but for right now, just go with JPEG. The real question becomes, how big do I want the files to be? Because they'll offer you sometimes several different levels of size on your files. And I come from the school of, I bought a camera that's got a certain megapixel, maximum megapixel. I'm using that maximum megapixel all the time because we've gotten so good now. The internet's gotten so good, speeds have gotten good, cards have gotten cheap, that rarely are you going to see a significant savings by using smaller files because it saves space. So just JPEG at the largest file that you can get. Now, if you are a RAW person, and you should be, if you're not yet, start looking into shooting in RAW, then set your RAW and set it to your largest RAW, and the question really becomes, do you shoot uncompressed or you shoot compressed? And I usually shoot compressed because it makes the file smaller, and I've never noticed a difference. So that's how I set my image quality in my camera. Number three, set your metering mode. If this is a first-time camera for you, you don't even know what this is. And by the way, if it's a Fuji camera, it's not even called metering mode, it's called photometry. And what this is how your camera reads the light that comes in and decides what it's going to display in the meter that's inside the camera, right? So that's what your metering mode is. And your camera has several different ways of metering a scene, and they will have names like center weighted averaging and spot metering, and they will usually have a name that is distinctive to that brand. So you will see names like matrix. I think matrix is what Nikon says. Evaluative, which is what Canon says. Multi, which I think might be what Fuji says. That name is for the be all end all. This is the mode that the camera manufacturer has created that tries to use the most processing power to try and figure out exactly what it is you're trying to do and give you an accurate reading and a good exposure. That's what you want to go with. You set your metering mode to whatever the fanciest one is that the camera has, and that's where you stay for now. Later, you're going to experiment with this and try new things, but that's a good place to start. Now, before I go any further, you may notice that there's little slides that are going up here on the video that are showing these steps. Now, these are from an ebook that I've created, and it's absolutely free. So if you would like to have this in written form so that you can refer back to it from time to time when you get a new camera or just check up on it, then all you have to do is go down in the description and go to my website, boorayperry.com/education. That should be the link still. If you're watching this video later, maybe it's changed. Go down in the description just to make sure. And you can get this ebook for free. I've created a couple of free ebooks, actually. This one, I've also created another ebook that is 20 definitions that you should know. And I consider these to be level 1 ebooks. These are ebooks that are the things I think everyone should know and do when they first get a camera, they first start exploring photography, so that they're ready to really start learning. So the other ebook is called 20 Definitions You Should Know, and it's absolutely free as well. Now, the system that is set up under is one where you can offer to pay what you think is fair for the book. And if you'd like to do that, that's great. I greatly appreciate that, but you don't have to. It can be absolutely free. It's my way of getting you ready for the journey ahead. Now, you will also see that I have other ebooks. My first ebook is all about natural light. And once you've learned the things that are in the first 2 ebooks that are free, you're ready to move on to natural light. And that's the first step with a photographer, learning all about light, where the light is, how to recognize the light, how to find the light, how to put your subject in the light. It's a 75-page ebook. It's also available. And this is important. There is a discount code. So if you look down in the description right now, there is a discount code for that ebook and for any of my ebooks and my videos, in fact, because I have a video on off-camera lighting. So go down and look in the description for that code, because as I'm making this video, because it's the introductory offer, it's 50% off. So be sure and check that out. All right. I don't want to talk about that too much. I want to stay on topic. So we've set the metering mode. The next thing you want to do is set your focus mode. Just like metering mode, there's a lot of different ways that your camera can focus and decide what it's going to focus on. Is it going to focus on something, whatever's right in the middle? Is it going to focus on the eye? Does it have eye tracking? Is it going to focus on the whole scene and try and figure out what it wants to focus in? You have to decide what the focus mode is going to be. So once again, you're going to have to spend a little time with your manual, get used to your manual, learn about your focusing modes, and pick the one that is best for you. I frequently recommend, if you're just starting out, to use the center focus spot. That way, whatever's in the center of your frame will always be focused. And if you want to focus on something that's not in the center of your frame, then what you do is you just point that center at that thing, lock the focus. There's a couple of ways you can do that, and then reposition and take your shot. It's nice, it's quick, and you don't have to worry about moving your focus point around. And later, you're going to want to move your focus point around, and that one's coming up in just a few minutes on the list. Next is set sound, and this is one of those things that's in no way essential to getting your camera ready to go, but I just like to do it right off the bat. Most modern cameras will let you pick the sounds that they make. So you can go in and decide what you want the setter, what kind of click sound do you want it to be when you take a picture and things like that. I actually turn off all the sound on my cameras because I'm a wedding photographer and I don't like there to be any noise from my camera. It distracts and it attracts attention. So I turn off all the sound, but it's entirely up to you what sound you have in your camera. Excuse me. Shoot without card. This is huge. This is one of those things like, if you only set up one thing from this list, it should be this. There's going to be a setting in your camera called shoot without card. You want to make sure that that setting is turned off. What that setting does is, if you say, yes, turn on shoot without card, it means that if you don't have a memory card in your camera and you go to take a picture, the camera just acts like it's taking a picture. And you have no way of knowing there's no memory card in your camera. I mean, there might be something in the screen that tells you, but you might not notice it. So you're out there clickety, clickety, click, and you're not taking any pictures because there's no memory card in your camera. I always turn this feature off. If there is no memory card in my camera, if I cannot take a picture, I do not want to be fooled into thinking that I'm taking a picture. To me, it's a no-brainer. And if you know why this even exists, then put it in the comments for me, please, and let me know, because I've never really understood who are these people who want their camera to act like it's taking a picture when it's actually not taking a picture. I would understand it if it was film or something you paid for, but it's not. So turn this off right away. It's very important to turn this off. Now, the next one's kind of broad, and that's the PASM dial. We call it the PASM dial, P-A-S-M, Program, Auto, Shutter, and Manual. The PASM dial is usually the biggest dial on your camera, and it's the dial that lets you set the settings in your camera. I've got one back here. Like, here we go. This is the PASM dial right here. It's usually on the left side of the camera. And they're going to have different names. Sometimes they won't even have names. Sometimes they'll just have an icon. There'll be a picture of a movie camera or a picture of a running man or something like that. You need to learn that dial. Okay, you need to figure out what each one of these do. And I say figure it out. You don't have to figure it out. It's in the manual. You need to know what each one of these things do and understand what each one of these things do, because this is the first step anytime you take your camera out of the bag, is you're going to set what mode you're in. You're going to stay in the same mode 90% of the time. But these are important modes. You need to know what they do. If you want to shoot somebody who's running, there might be a setting right there on the PASM dial for you to help you do that. So learn what your PASM dial does. Learn what those settings do. And they change from camera to camera. I'm a professional photographer with years of experience, and I still sometimes am surprised to discover that there's something on the PASM dial that wasn't on my last camera. And wow, I'm so glad that I took a minute to figure out what the PASM dial does. Now, remember a minute ago when I talked about setting your focus point and repositioning? This is the next thing on the list. If you want to move your focus point around, learn how to do it. There's going to be a way to do it. When you have a focus point that can be moved, there's going to be a way to do it on your camera. It might have a joystick. It might have a wheel. It might have a turning knob up top. There will be a way to move it around. You need to figure out how to do it. Because if you want to move your focus point, it doesn't do you any good if you don't know how to move it, and it needs to become very much second nature to you, where you always know where to go with your thumb or your finger to move that focus point around. Next, learn what the dials do. Okay. Well, of course, I'm going to learn what the dials do. Yeah, but here's the thing. They don't always do the same thing. And that's what I mean. You need to sit down, and I say this all the time. Sit down with your camera and your manual and just relax, get yourself a cup of coffee, and do these steps. Learn what your dials do. So if you are in shutter priority mode, which dial is the one that controls your shutter speed? Which one is the one that controls your aperture? You know, if you're in aperture priority mode, which dial is the one that controls your shutter speed? Which dial is the one that controls your aperture? A lot of times these dials won't change very much, but I guarantee you there's going to be at least one setting where they're going to change on you. And it will flip you out. If you're out taking pictures and you change to a new mode and suddenly you can't find the dial, and it'll freak you out. You'll start, oh my God, well, what's wrong? My dial's not working. No, it's working. It's just that in this mode, the front dial doesn't affect aperture. The front dial affects shutter speed. And you need to understand that. So learn what your dials do. Commit it to memory. Get a little practice in there. Get a little muscle memory in there. You know, it's very important. And finally, the last thing on the list has nothing to do with the camera directly. This is just a tip directly from me. And this is something that I do with every camera that I buy. And it's been a wonderful tool for me. Find the place where you spend the most time. Now, for me, it's my computer, but maybe for you, it's a chair in the living room sitting in front of the TV, you know, or maybe you spend a lot of time in your car. It doesn't matter where it is. Find the place where you spend the most time. Take your manual from your camera and set it right there within arm's reach of that spot. And then for the next month or so, anytime you're sitting in that spot and you have a minute, you have 30 seconds, right? You can be on hold, right? You can be uploading something and it's taking a while. You can be waiting for a website to load. You can be waiting for someone to return a text. This happens a lot. You text somebody, now you're waiting for them to get back to you. You don't want to dive into some new thing or whatever. Anytime you have these little lulls in your day and these little lulls in your moments, pick up your manual, flip to any random page and start reading. You will be amazed at what you will learn about your camera and about photography by doing this simple trick. That entire manual can be very daunting. It's very big. There's so much stuff in it. But in little bitty bite-sized pieces, it's not so bad. And I can't tell you how many times I've picked up my manual and flipped to something and been like, oh, yeah, I know that. Flip. Wait a minute. What? Oh, I didn't even know my camera could do that. I didn't even know there was a setting for that. And it's made the whole experience better for me. So it's just a tip for you. You don't have to do it, but I'm telling you it works for me. Put your manual someplace where you can easily reach it. And then just grab for it. Anytime you have a minute. Oh, I got a second. I'll grab my manual, just flip to a page and see what I see. A little micro learning. It goes a long way. All right, so that's 10 things. Those are the first 10 things I do every time that I pick up a new camera. Feel free to go down in the comments and give me some of the 10 things that you do, some of the things maybe I didn't list, because I know there's some that I kind of skipped over, but these are the 10 that I consider essential for me to get started with my camera. And don't forget to go to the website. The link is down below. Go to the website, grab the free copy of this ebook, grab the free copy of my next video that I'm going to be making on the 20 things, the definitions that you should learn. Check out my other ebooks as well, because anything that you do to contribute helps me to keep this channel alive. And join my group on Facebook. It is called Pro Photo Talk with Boo-Ray Perry, and it's a great community. You can go in there. You can ask questions. Everybody always is very helpful and contributes and tries to help each other out. I love that community. And follow me on Instagram and Threads at Boo-Ray Perry. I post examples of my work there and shots from my life, and I also just post a lot of stuff that I think is funny. So it's nice to have me in your feed, because it won't just be, oh, here's another headshot from Boo-Ray. About 8 out of 10 are going to be jokes. And who doesn't like to have some good jokes come up in their Instagram feed? So that's it for now. Another video is on the way, and I'll talk about the next ebook that I just put out. But this is the first one, and I wanted to get it out to you right away. Thanks for watching.